So Maurice, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a town in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania called McKeesport.
And how was it growing up there in McKeesport?
It was a rough neighborhood. I stayed with my grandmother, stayed with my mom, just different periods of times. There were certain times you couldn't even go outside because just, all of the killings and the robberies there. Like my dad wasn't around, so it was just tough. And I was raised by my grandmother, my grandfather, and my mom.
So you mentioned you kind of went back and forth between houses?
Yeah, it was depending on what my mom had going on. She's a single mother.
So she worked?
She worked, and my grandmother wasn't too far from us, and I'm a grandmother's boy, so I love being around my grandmother, and I'd sit in the kitchen, just listen to her talk, and just drop knowledge on me, and watch her cook. I learned from her.
Oh yeah, so you're a pretty good cook?
Yeah, I can say that.
So you mentioned that your father wasn't around. Was he just divorced parents? Or?
No, they weren't married, but he was there. I barely remember him, and I'm not going to bad talk him, but
right.
He was around the corner, but he wasn't around.
Yeah, I understand.
It just made it tough. It made it tough for me, my brother and sister, because we were looking for him, we were waiting on him, and he would say something and not do it.
So you mentioned you didn't go outside a lot, or you had to be careful when you go outside because of robberies and
yeah.
killings and stuff like that.
The safest place was actually my grandmother's block. And the block had 3 houses. Before I was born, one of them burned down, and then my neighbor, he actually grew up with my mom and became a cop, and nobody stayed in that house, so they gave her the actual block. And
oh wow!
She the Saturday after this Thanksgiving, she had the Grandmother of the Year award.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Were you there to?
Actually, I wasn't. I was down here. My daughter was a little sick, so.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I have kids, so yeah, I have to be with them.
Well, that's good. But in respect with the kind of like the crime that went on there, how often did something like that happen?
There was something every day.
Really?
I would be surprised. Like, a lot of it's not reported, just like anywhere else in the U.S., but a high percentage wasn't.
Really?
Yeah, or unsolved. I'm not going to speak too much on about it because it's just, it's that crazy. You can just read up on it and you're like, wow, every time I go back and visit, the day before and the day of, something happened.
Wow, that's pretty remarkable. So did you ever run into trouble?
I've ran in numerous times, just from walking back home. Just walking home from my cousin's house to my grandmother's house. It was like a drive-by shooting, and I had to dive into my grandmother's window.
Wow.
Just so I wouldn't, get shot, and it was just crazy. And from there on out, I was like, I just have to pick and choose when I go out. It was pretty late too, after a basketball game.
Yeah. All right. So then you grow up, and you get out. And you go on to the NFL, and then you injure. Was it your? Talk about the injury with the bench press and the rack.
That's just one of 3 injuries that I've had. My second year in the NFL, I dislocated my shoulder against the Steelers in Arrowhead on a punt coverage, and it ended my season. And then the very following year, we were playing in Tampa. And I got hit by one of my own players, and I had a concussion and some neck damages, which they did X-rays and MRIs, and it turned out negative.
That's
but
good.
The concussion ended my season in the preseason, and then the lockout was coming, and the Chiefs and I decided to part ways. And when the lockout ended, I was going to Detroit, and after practice, we were actually working out, and I hit the bottom of the rack, and it recoiled back down, and to prevent it from hitting my neck, I tried to swing it to my chest, and I ended up tearing my back.
Ouch. Ouch. So I take it it's fully recovered since you participate today?
It's been recovered since like in 3 months after the surgery. The rehab program that I've been on has just been outstanding, and I've learned a lot. I've read up on it. A rehab trainer, he's helped me so much tremendously on that part to have a faster recovery, and I've learned how to take care of my body better, and just by eating, sleeping, and just letting stuff go and not stress about it.
Now, if you could go back to your hometown, you know, in closing, if you go back to your hometown, what's one piece of advice you would give those kids?
Never give up on your goals. Never. If you want to do something, do it. I was told I was too small when I was up there. I was too small to play tackle football. I had to play flag football. They said I was too slow to play high school ball, and I wasn't physical enough. I played running back. I played every position except for offensive line in high school, and I was the best at it. The best player on the team. In college, some schools said I wasn't physical enough to play defensive back. I ended up starting at linebacker for my first 2 seasons, and then went to play defensive back. They said I was too small to play in the NFL, too slow to play cover 2 defense, and I'm running 4.27.
Yeah, that was impressive. That was impressive. Well, hey, thanks for taking some time, Maurice, to tell us your story and to tell us a little bit about you. It's certainly a remarkable story, and I'm really glad I got to hear it today, so thank you.
Thanks for having me.